But I want to piece together a few things because I've been getting some criticism on my take and sharing some of the words of our governor in the past and what was said over the weekend as well. When it comes to the fact that Doug Burgum went to Iowa, I assume flew to Iowa, got on a stage and said that he endorses Donald Trump for the Republican nomination to be the next president. That was a choice, and you got to ask why. Why did that become the decision to go there and in such a public fashion say, hey, he's my guy? And I want to get to that, but I want to build up an argument I've got here because I keep going back to some comments made from the first time Doug Burgum was a candidate for anything, or at least in partisan politics. And it happened in January of 2016. And I'm going to ultimately build up to that by playing a clip that you've probably been seeing around. If you haven't, this is going to be an audio clip that was during Meet the Press. Chuck Todd was in Fargo interviewing then candidate for president Doug Burgum and asked him about Donald Trump. And this was Doug Burgum's response to Chuck Todd on that question.
Would you ever do business with Donald Trump?
I don't think so.
Why?
I just think that it's important that you're judged by the company you keep, and You
just wouldn't do business with him?
No, I wouldn't.
All right, so you have heard that clip. Or if not, that's the first time. And then you're going to say, well, why? What's the connection here? So the question was whether or not you do business with him is what people keep saying. Well, yeah, business, and that's a different thing. But I want you to listen to what Doug Burgum now said this weekend, in which he endorsed Donald Trump to be the president. Take a listen.
I've had an opportunity to have a front row seat. I've seen President Trump and what he's been able to do. I've seen it as a business leader, and I've seen it as a governor. I've seen the difference that President Trump can make.
That's why you're seeing and hearing the Chuck Todd clip about business, because he said, I wouldn't do business with the guy, and now he's endorsing him as a business leader. That's a pivot. That's where these things don't connect. And which one is Doug Burgum telling you his truth? And which one is he being the politician that in 2016, on January, at Island Park, at an auditorium that's no longer there, he stood before the audience, had a PowerPoint presentation, treated it as though it was a TED Talk. He was going to be something different, or so he wanted you to believe. And then at the end of that, at the end of the whole presentation, the announcement that he was running for governor, he was getting questions from media. And somewhere along the line, somebody referenced him as a politician. And Doug Burgum said, I don't want to be a politician. And said that instead he wanted to be an elected leader. Well, folks, what I just heard over the span of 2 months is a politician. So he's fitting the mold pretty good. So the idealism that happened on a January in 2016 right here in downtown Fargo to what I just heard on a stage down in Iowa, it's not the same individual. So what's changed is a question. What aspirations lead to saying, you know what, I'm going to jump back on a plane and get back to Iowa, even though I've declared that I'm not in this race anymore. And I hope that we don't find out that that was a state plane that got him from North Dakota back to Iowa, and that the North Dakota Highway Patrol was along with him on that. And time will tell there. But what's changed now over the course of these years? As his term as governor in North Dakota, and then the decision to run for president, and now the decision to endorse somebody he claimed not long ago he wouldn't even do business with, but now as a business leader, he's the guy. If, in fact, all of this came down to the fact that Doug Burgum really thinks he ought to be president, that he fits what is needed in that White House, the argument that he has been making of why he did not catch fire in the eyes of public opinion in the Republican Party is because he didn't have name recognition. The nation didn't know who he was. And depending on what ad, you didn't know if he was the chimney sweep if he was the business leader, if he was the band student. I mean, the narrative that I think is noble, I think it's honorable. I think that he is a success story, but that didn't get enough attention out there, even after spending a lot of money to get that attention. So you think, what can be done then that was lacking and all that? What's earned media? Got to go out there and do something. Got to go out and say something that captivates the attention. And for that stretch after that announcement that he was no longer running for the presidency, okay, well, that seemed to be the logical exit, the off-ramp, if you will, and now he's diving right back in to the national spotlight. And the first question that people were throwing out is, what office does he want to be the secretary of? I heard Secretary of Agriculture. I have heard Energy. I have heard Secretary of State. I don't know if any of those are true. I don't, but there's got to be something that motivated him to make this very public stance that he is backing Donald Trump, because it was a decision. It was a choice to go do that. Now, as far as that decision and the impacts of it, not going to be a whole lot of impact, in my opinion, on, oh my God, now you got more people supporting Donald Trump today than what you did minutes before Doug Burgum took the stage. It's not going to impact that race. I'm questioning you if it changes at all your perception of Doug Burgum, of what, in fact, you thought he stood for. Is this what you were all along? Because I think there's a big group of individuals who thought otherwise leading up to this, that didn't expect this to be the next step, unless it is just to continue on, get that cabinet position, and then run in 4 years or whatever it might be. Did it at all impact your process and line of thinking on the governor is my question. And there was a message in here that proved my point before I even got to talking about the politician part. Tyler, it's a surprise that politicians change their mind. Maybe you should go back and look what Biden said about gays and immigrants. You never say anything about that, just the Republican side. My point is about the politician side. Because he came out and said he ain't a politician. Didn't want you to think that he was a politician. And yet here we are. And your point being, well, this is what politicians do, is on point.